NC State has had back-to-back 9-4 seasons, but can they make it 3 in a row? Find out here on the Gridiron Expert.
Yeah.
A disappointing bowl loss to Texas A&M should not overshadow what Dave Doeren and his Wolfpack squad were able to accomplish in 2018. A 9-3 regular season and a third-place finish in the ACC Atlantic, their second straight 9-win season. Unfortunately for the Wolfpack, they have to have the tall task of replacing their star quarterback and Ryan Finley, their 1,000-yard rusher and Reggie Gallaspy, and their top two wide receivers in Kelvin Harmon and Jacoby Myers, both 1,000-yard receivers in 2018. The Wolfpack only returned 4 starters on the offensive side of the ball. Their offensive line will be extremely solid, so if they can get a run game going with Ricky Person, that will be great. But the key to this season will be how well Matt McKay adjusts into the starting role of quarterback for the Wolfpack. That will be the biggest question on the offensive side of the ball for North Carolina State this season. On defense, it will be quite the opposite. The defense is quite experienced. They have 7 returning starters, and Jarius Moorhead and Nick McLeod lead a very talented secondary. And if you remember last year, there were questions on the defensive side of the ball for North Carolina State after losing a star in Bradley Chubb. This year, there are questions on the offensive side of the ball, and the defense should be just fine. They kick off the season against East Carolina, and we're not going to go ahead and put an automatic W there because East Carolina does bring in a new head coach and plenty of returning starters as well. I think the Wolfpack should be able to take fairly easy care of the Pirates in this one. I really don't have any doubt in my mind that they can do that, but crazier things have happened, and with a brand new head coach, with an overhauled offense, and so much experience coming back, and a Pirates team that is hungry for success after so many losing seasons. I think they've had horrible 3 or 4 past few seasons. You never know what could happen, but I think North Carolina State gets a win here over East Carolina. They get a win over Western Carolina, and then they have a very intriguing showdown against West Virginia in Week 3. And last year, I was so disappointed that this matchup at North Carolina State got canceled due to inclement weather. We were going to have the chance to see Will Grier of West Virginia and Ryan Finley go at it, 2 great quarterbacks, 2 of the better quarterbacks in the entire nation, and unfortunately, that game was canceled. This year, on the road at West Virginia, North Carolina State has to take on a brand new head coach, as well as Neil Brown comes over from Troy to become head coach of the Mountaineers. They also like North Carolina State, have to deal with a brand new offense. They lose their star quarterback in Will Grier. They lose David Sills at the wide receiver position. But they do bring in Austin Kendall, the transfer quarterback from Oklahoma, and they return their star running back in Kennedy McCoy, who was a workhorse for the Mountaineers last year. This game has all the signs pointing towards a defensive battle because this game is so early on in the year and because both teams will be working things out on the offensive side of the ball. But in the end, I think Austin Kendall owns the edge at the quarterback position over Matt McKay. I think home field advantage plays a major role for the Mountaineers, and Neil Brown gets a signature win in his first season in the Big 12 with a win over a Power 5 opponent, and that is going to be a loss for the Wolfpack in Week 3. They are 2-1, make it 3-1 with an easy win over Ball State as they return home, and then on the road against Florida State. And this is a game that really is probably circled on both teams' calendars, especially after North Carolina State beat the Seminoles by 19 points last year. Unfortunately, there's no way that is going to happen this year. Not with the game being in Tallahassee, not with the amount of progress and development that is going to be happening in Tallahassee in year 2 of the Willie Taggart era. Last year, Florida State was just a dumpster fire. They had questions at the quarterback position. They faced injuries. They just were not there completely. This year, they returned 16 starters. They have a competent quarterback in James Blackman. The offensive line, if they can stay healthy, will provide many gaps for Cam Akers at the running back position, and that defense is going to be scary good, better than I think people are giving them credit for. With this game being on the road, with Florida State being much more competitive and much more experienced, and with a little bit of revenge on their mind after losing by 19 points last season, North Carolina State takes a loss on the road to the Seminoles. They get a much-needed bye week going into a Thursday night game against Syracuse, a team that surprised the nation last year by winning 10 games, going 10-3 in year 3 under Dino Babers. They do lose Eric Dungy, their star quarterback, though, much like North Carolina State loses their star quarterback and Ryan Finley. And last year against Syracuse, the Wolfpack fell on the road 51-41, an absolute offensive shootout. I don't think it's going to be that high scoring this time around, but I do believe that the Wolfpack turn things around and get a win over Syracuse after falling to the Orange last year. This game, to me, for the Orange, has a trap game written all over it. This NC State team is not going to be, I think, as good as they were last year, but with both teams coming off a bye, with it being on a short week, technically with this game being on a Thursday night on the road for the Orange, I like this game for NC State to get a major win over a very good Syracuse team. They go back on the road here after that game to get 9 days of rest after the win over Syracuse to take on a Boston College team. And this is going to be a loss for the Wolfpack, unfortunately, because Boston College, even though NC State will have 9 days of rest, Boston College is coming off a bye week of their own. And keep in mind, we mentioned how much we think this NC State offense could struggle a little bit early on and how the defense is going to be the strength. Usually the defense is the strength for Boston College. This year, the offense will be the strength for the Eagles, led by Anthony Brown at quarterback, led by A.J. Dillon at running back, and a very solid wide receiver core with a week of rest, with an offense that should be much better, one of the best under Steve Addazio, and a defense that I think by this point in the season will have worked everything out and should be becoming that Boston College defensive form that we're used to seeing. I think they get a win at home over the Wolfpack, and they take another loss here. Then they get their much-needed bye week going into a game against Wake Forest. But unfortunately for NC State, Wake Forest is also coming off a bye week. Keep in mind also, I talked about this defense for NC State. They're going to be going up against a dangerous offense in Wake Forest. Now, nothing compared to the likes of Clemson, who they will face the week after. But Wake Forest finally has themselves a quarterback as well. Last year, they struggled to find themselves a quarterback. They had Kendall Hinton. They had Sam Hartman. Now they've got Jamie Newman, and he is the man for the job, and he's a dangerous dual-threat quarterback as well. And if they shut down Jamie Newman somehow, they'll also have Cade Carney for the Demon Deacons, their dominant running back last year, rushing for over 1,000 yards. And NC State, unfortunately, has not had much success against Wake Forest the past couple years. Wake Forest actually hurting their chance for a New Year's Six bowl game just a few years ago. Last year, they lost by 4 points to the Demon Deacons. NC State did. 2 years ago, they lost by 6 points. Make it 3 in a row for Wake Forest. NC State takes a loss after their bye week, and they take another loss after a home-down beating by Clemson. Yes, this game, as it is at North Carolina State. Yes, the last time they were here, NC State only lost by 7 points. Yes, the year before that, they took Clemson to overtime in Death Valley. But once again, I can say it over and over and over again, I don't think any team in the regular season can beat Clemson. I think the toughest test for Clemson this season will be South Carolina, Syracuse, and Texas A&M, and maybe Florida State. But Clemson has the best quarterback in the nation in Trevor Lawrence, one of the best running backs in the ACC and Travis Etienne, and arguably the best wide receiver core in the entire nation. And if you're going to try to throw some comment out there that maybe the defensive line will be a little bit weak after losing to like a Christian Wilkins and Dexter Lawrence and Cleveland Farrell, you can forget about it. Dabo Swinney is rebuilding that defense, and he's rebuilding it quick. North Carolina State, unfortunately, does not stand a chance against the Tigers at home. They take 3 straight losses here. Now, but the good thing for the Wolfpack is look at this final schedule, these last 3 games, the final quarter of the schedule. Louisville, at Georgia Tech, North Carolina. What do those 3 teams have in common? They all have a brand new head coach going into 2019. And we'll start with Louisville. Last year, NC State just took easy care of them, as did most teams against the Cardinals last year. Scott Satterfield is a phenomenal coach, and I think he will turn this Cardinals program around. And Louisville does have 10 returning starters on the defensive side of the ball, and that is the only thing that can maybe give Louisville a win in this game, is because of that experienced defense and how North Carolina State's offense might not be as good as it was last year and might not be as dominant, although I think they would have worked everything out by November 16th. But North Carolina State won by 42 last year. I don't think it's going to happen this year by that many points, but they will take very easy care of the Cardinals. They get a big-time win in ACC play. Back on the road against Georgia Tech, a very short week, only a 5-day break there. Georgia Tech now being led by Jeff Collins, who's going to switch everything from the Paul Johnson offense of the option, making it a little more pro-style, out of the shotgun, throwing the ball a little bit more, something that we haven't seen out of Georgia Tech in a very, very long time, and something that ACC teams and ACC defensive coordinators have gotten used to seeing out of Georgia Tech in that option. Now they're going to have to adjust their game plan. They knew it was coming for years and years. Now they're going to have to really study that film and figure new things out. But unfortunately, even though this game is on the road, I think North Carolina State is going to be able to take care of the Yellow Jackets. It's very difficult to go from that drastic change in offense, from the option to a pro style in 1 year, especially with the type of players that were built to run the option, I think North Carolina State goes on the road, gets a win over the Yellow Jackets. And then they close out the year, of course, the annual rivalry game against North Carolina, now being led by the legendary Mac Brown. A lot of people, some of them have high hopes for North Carolina this season. They returned 14 starters, and they were competitive last year. Despite going 2-9, they were competitive in most of their games, actually taking North Carolina State to overtime before falling 34-28. I do expect this game to be close. Even if North Carolina State hadn't won a game by this point, everybody plays big and everybody plays well in their rivalry games. That's like the Super Bowl for some teams. But North Carolina does not have enough talent this year, and with a new head coach, does not have it put together this year. North Carolina State closes out the season with a win over North Carolina, finishes the year on a 3-game winning streak, and they finished the year 7-5. And I know some people will disagree with that, and rightfully so. It will not be 3 straight 9-win seasons for the Wolfpack and Dave Doeren after what he's done the past 2 seasons. But this would be a phenomenal year for the Wolfpack, considering who they lost on the offensive side of the ball, and of course losing a couple of defensive playmakers as well. But if the offense can get things clicking under Matt McKay, under this brand new offense, then you could very well see a North Carolina State team winning 7 or 8 games in 2019. I think that would be a phenomenal year considering the circumstances. So, as always, guys, thank you for watching. Please continue to like, comment, and subscribe, and we will see you next time here on The Gridiron Expert.